And now for something completely different. Welcome to the Bad Rating Podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Atlas Novak, and with me today, my guest co-host, he's a previously local comedian from our Spider-Man episode, Kyle Daly, everybody.
What's going on, guys? How's it going?
Good. I like the blurry background.
I like your blurry background.
Thank you, sir. And our guest today, he's the co-owner of Tao Comedy Studio, Chris Oliver.
Nice to be here. Hello.
Are you in front of your spice rack right now?
This is my tiki bar.
Oh, it's a tiki bar.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I thought you were going to be like...
Yeah, my bar has got, my glasses and my tiki mugs and things. About 10 years ago, I guess I got into collecting these tiki mugs, and now I just have them. I haven't added to the collection.
We should have moved the nuts to get it.
Oh, you want the...
No, I just want to move them so they can see more.
But anyway, so that's what's going on there.
Nice. I haven't been a collector of anything in such a long time.
Yeah, it's I don't really have the I'll start things this seems like a fun idea. Like comic books is a thing. Every few years for a while I would say, oh yeah, I'm gonna start going to the comic book store every week and just buying comics. They're cheap, it's a good hobby, but I just can't seem to make going to the comic store a part of my life. So I'm not going to do that. That's not.
It adds up too. It does add up after a while, because then you're just like, well, started reading this one series with Deadpool in it, and hey, what do you know? Deadpool's guest starring in this series.
Yeah. I'm when I was regularly reading comics, they were 25 cents. So when I was a kid.
And then now they're $2-3 at this point?
Yeah, I think that sounds about right?
Inflation.
But they've kind of inflated it insanely up to the mid 80s, and then I think they've kind of stayed the same for the last, if they're still $2.50, that's kind of what they were in 1989 or something. So they've kind of stayed.
Yeah, because they don't sell.
Because no one buys the shit.
Although you would think that with all the Marvel movies and stuff, you'd have more comic book fans. But
you would think that, wouldn't you? I guess they kind of think of the comic books as a good way to generate the characters that they can make movies out of, that they can actually make money off of.
My only my nerd hobby is I play trading card games, right? Which you would kind of count that as a collection, but it's less for having the collection and more about I want to play with these. I want to meet other people and go to local tournaments and all that kind of stuff. And that's a whole different set of nerdery. A more toxic kind of nerdery. It's a good time.
I don't know. Have you actually been in the League of Legends chats?
Mm-mm.
I mean, no. I haven't either, but I've heard horror stories. So I've heard people come out of them having Vietnam flashbacks. That's how toxic it is.
Any fandom is toxic these days. Well, I guess people are toxic is really what it comes down to. So anything that can get a bunch of people together, but it just really seems since the internet, and especially since social media, it's just all you can see now is the toxicity.
Mm-hmm.
Everything just seems so. I have no interest in talking to people about Star Wars or whatever, because I know there's just all these horrible attitudes out there.
The worst part is the internet will spawn people who have these rare insults almost that just cut you deep. Somebody DM'd me a few months ago and was like, "You have a voice for sign language," and I was like, "Fuck."
Yeah.
And then, of course, like part of you is like, "Damn it, I gotta write that down for roast battle."
I know.
Yeah,
that's a
exactly.
good-
Or like,
I used to hear people say you have a great face for radio, so that's like a nice update of that
Yeah.
one.
yeah. Or, I thought of this one today where it's like you're more difficult than cling wrap sticking to itself.
That is difficult.
Yeah.
Mm.
But
Right.
today
Or
on the
take-
Bad Reading podcast, we like to ask our guests, Chris, what are you into?
Man, I'm into so much shit. But I know I sent like a long list of things that were possibilities, but one of the things was Monty Python, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you would give the three that stuck out. You said Monty Python, the Beastie Boys, and Godzilla, which are very different.
Are
Yeah,
they?
Are they? I guess they.
I mean,
They-
I don't
they-
know. I could see the Beastie Boys using Godzilla for their album cover or something like that.
Maybe.
Well, they got that. They have that video for what's the
Intergalactic.
Intergalactic. Yeah, it's basically a Godzilla movie.
You got to fight for your right to smash Tokyo.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah, I guess those three things don't really make a unit of a cohesive aesthetic, but they do kind of triangulate a certain nerd attitude or personality, right?
Maybe. I don't think like the similarities between a person's like nerd smorgasbord. Like they're never quite the same. It's always like I'm a huge fan of Homestar Runner and Vanguard and Rush. Like it's not; those have nothing to do with each other.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and plus, I know, Bobbie had already done Buffy, so that was up there. I didn't want to do something like Star Wars or Game of Thrones. It is the ones that everyone is going to pick. So, I wanted to be a little off the beaten path.
There's like stuff that I'm saving. Like I'm saving Star Wars, I'm saving Game of Thrones, I'm saving Rick and Morty, because that has to have Nick in it, because Nick is like the Rick and Morty super fan. Yeah, but this week, in the Monty Python universe, this story comes from Archive of Our Own. As always, we will put the link to the story in the show notes for you to do a find for yourself and also to give the artist credit. And it is called Monty Python and the Ultimate Boon, and it is by someone called the Purple Meanie.
So this is Monty Python fan fiction.
Yes.
Okay.
And the little summary that they have beforehand is, while filming The Meaning of Life, the Pythons are suddenly summoned into a world that exists outside of our universe and are tasked with defeating a mysterious entity known as id, as well as terrifying guardians, the Seven Sages of Stages. Why is it that this world is depending on a British comedy troupe from Earth to deal with their problems? The Pythons would certainly like to know. This strange world is called Ramesh, is filled to the brim with surreal landscapes, bizarre denizens, and operates on seemingly nonsensical logic. But if the Pythons want to go home, they're going to have to get through it using the very wits that made them famous. Warning, this is going to be a very silly fan fiction.
Okay, and so, and the Pythons in this story will actually be that the actors, or there will be some kind of character. I guess it'd be the actual actors that were filming the movie and got sucked in. I guess that makes
That's basically it. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
We'll go. They're 5 strong per, I guess 6 strong personalities, so it could work.
Because it's like Holy Grail and Life of Brian. They were like a cohesive story, but Meaning of Life was just sketches, right?
Sketches, yeah. Meaning of Life is. I don't like it quite as much as the other two. But the stuff that stands out, like the every sperm is sacred and the guy that explodes and all, like that's really great classic shit.
I considered doing like I found a few with King Arthur from Holy Grail and like some Life of Brian stuff, and I have never actually seen Meaning of Life, but just the thing where you take like magical realism with a sketch troupe, it's too good to pass up.
Yeah, yeah. This sounds more, more out there. We want to go with something that's taking a little risk. We like the edgy fan fiction.
There is fan fiction for pretty much anything you can think of. So,
right.
Yeah, there is. It's ridiculous.
All right, let's get into it. July 27th, 1982, 3:50 a.m. Principal photography of The Meaning of Life was now 5 days in. Perhaps swimmingly would not be the correct word for how it was going. After all, it had only really just begun, but compared to the other rather cumbersome screenwriting stage, which was characterized by frequent dead ends and thrown-out ideas, and especially compared to the filming of The Holy Grail, all in all it seemed like it was going to be waiting comfortably. Filming was expected to wrap up in a couple months or so. Keyword was expected. For at this exact date and time, filming was about to be delayed significantly. It can only be speculated what the Pythons were doing during this specific time in the world that you and I know. But for the sake of this story, let's surmise that most of them were fast asleep or about to sleep. Maybe one or more of them would still be up and about at a pub, or in the bathroom, or walking down a street, what have you.
Okay, so this is all part of the story, what you're reading here, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, this is already kind of long-winded.
Yeah.
This is like we could have done this in like 1/3 the verbiage.
Yeah. I feel like I should be reading this in a British accent, but my British accent kind of like fades in and out. So
maybe it's better not to.
Yeah. My Irish accent is a lot better than my British accent, which you don't want to hear that.
It's not as funny.
Yeah. Irish accents are like vaguely more serious, so you're like, okay.
Depends.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I've been to Dublin and like before they start drinking, it's a beautiful accent. After they start drinking, you can't understand them, but it's amazing no matter what. You're having a good time, so.
What happens in Dublin where you're like, all right, over here we have the very complicated equations from Good Will Hunting. And you say,
well, first of all, why would you be having those math problems when you're drinking?
Before you start drinking, math problems.
Oh, before you start drinking.
Yeah.
I don't know. No, then you'd be fine. Then you'd be fine.
Okay.
Anyway.
Where they would be sleeping and what they would really be doing doesn't matter. However, all that matters is that during this time they would be away from the world at large, not performing, when no one was watching. Now, at 3:50 a.m., a message from somewhere outside the known universe began its brief transmission, intended only for 7 people on the planet Earth. You may never forgive me for what I am about to do, but I do not ask for your sympathy, and in turn you will receive little from me. And in an instant, 7 people were plucked from the planet Earth.
Who is the 7th person? Is it going to be Carol Cleveland?
Maybe? Was there only 6 in the troupe?
There's only 6 in the, yeah.
It's a good question.
Just counting Terry Gilliam. Well, we'll find out, right? Or maybe it's their producer, Ian McNaughton, maybe? I can't remember. But anyway.
Kyle, you want to take over from the chapter break?
Sure. A drop of water awoke Michael Palin from his sleep. With a plop, it splashed onto his forehead and into his eyes, and he squirmed, excuse me. I can't.
Squirmed?
I was like, is that a British word? Squirmed?
I don't know. It honestly sounded like a word that they could have invented, like.
And that does sound like a Monty Python word, yeah.
Yeah, like one that could have, or a Simpsons word, but one that sounded like a failed skit, like.
To this day,
Silly walks, and then like.
To this day, when I hear the word wainscoting, I can't believe wainscoting is an actual word and not like a Monty Python joke or something.
What does the word mean?
It's this like, honey, what does wainscoting mean?
It's kind of like molding that goes up halfway.
Molding that goes halfway up the wall. The wall. Does that
Okay.
make sense? You picture that?
Yes. I mean, like molding, like crown molding, not like
Right.
the fungus or whatever.
Yeah. I think maybe when you're entering into the haunted mansion and you go into that elevator, maybe there's a wainscoting around that stretches. Anyway, as I recall.
Oh, the tangents we go on the show.
That's kind of the point.
Eyes squeezed shut out of instinct, Michael stretched his hands around himself. Numbly, he recognized the bed was empty, but was not yet conscious enough to pay it any thought. He sat up, and another bead of water spattered the top of his head, which brought him closer to awareness. Michael's first tangible...
I can see it. I can see Michael Palin doing this. It's funny. Okay, and reacting to the water.
Michael's first tangible thought of the day was, is there a leak? An unintangible mumble passed his lips, and the mumble reverberated. Michael's eyes snapped open. He was in near total darkness with only a distant tunnel of light barely illuminate the walls. But even under these low-lit conditions, Michael could make out from the stalactites reaching from the black, like claws, that for some reason he was currently inside a cave.
I feel like that would be easier to, like, you wouldn't be so okay with it. Like, it's not, oh, I guess I'm in a cave. It's, what the fuck, I'm in a cave.
It's a complicated sentence. Like, I could hear you, like, struggling for, like, well, wait, which direction is this sentence going? Into the black, like, claw. Into the black, like, claw. Okay.
Black, like, claws.
You're done with the sentence before you figure out how they all stick together.
Yeah,
okay. I feel like an asshole, like, ragging on this guy's fan fiction.
Or
this girl's fan fiction.
Again, this is kind of the point of the show.
It's, you know, we're ragging on the fan fiction, but, like, that's not in, like, a toxic way. It's because we enjoy it in, like, the Room kind of way. And also not every story we read on here is, like, actively terrible. Some of them are interesting or good, even.
Yeah.
But the whole, like, stalactite...
I don't know yet where this one is going. Yeah. So this one, I mean...
That's just a word you don't... That's a word you don't see pop up very often. Like, it's never like, stop, yield, stalactite. Like, you know what I mean?
The word like with stalactite kind of reminds me of that part of Werewolves of London by Warren Zevon, where it's little old lady got mutilated late last night, where it's got that weird kind of flow to it.
Yeah, it doesn't quite... He makes it work, but it's an odd rhythm. Okay.
All right. Where were we? He was inside a cave. It took him a few seconds to react to his surroundings, but Michael soon had the bedsheets in a vice-like grip in his hands. He called out to the darkness, "Very funny, dragging me all the way out here. Was it worth it carrying the bed out the door and down the street? Ha! You'll all be feeling that soon enough." The only person to reply was Michael himself. Somewhere, deep inside of him, the rational part of his mind knew that this couldn't simply be a bit of fooling around from one of the others. Oh, sure, they'd pull some good ones over him from time to time, like sneaking into his hotel room and jumping out to scare him, but they wouldn't pull something as intricate as this.
What's, like, the most intricate prank you've either pulled or had pulled on you?
Oh, jeez. I've never really pulled pranks. Go ahead.
Well, one prank that I had pulled on me was my senior year of college, and I used to sleep with headphones in because it just like listening to Pink Floyd just like lulled me into a sleep. And apparently one night, like, we just didn't lock our door, and a couple of my neighbors, or we were good friends with them, just decided to bust in at like 2 o'clock in the morning, like, guys, we want to party. And like there was nobody around to party, and like I didn't hear them come in because of the headphones, so they stacked all of the furniture in the living room that they could grab. Because my bedroom, the way it was set up was there was the living room and then pretty much my bedroom, like led right into it. They got all the furniture and stacked it up outside my door, and I didn't hear him do this at all. So when I woke up in the morning, I just opened up the door, and then there's all the furniture just like stacked up to the ceiling, and then there's my roommate. He's just sitting there on Xbox playing Call of Duty or something like that.
Trying to avoid the
no,
unstacking.
he saw it. He was like, I'm not doing this. No. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
doing this.
I just imagine him on top of the pile of furniture. He's like, okay, like, climb to the top of this, like, 6-chair thing. You're just like, oh, fuck this. Not doing it.
One time, a friend of mine gave me this, it's like a thing you put, like, under the light bulb in a lamp, and it will, as it heats up, the light bulb will start flashing, going off, and I was spending the night at another friend's house, and I was like, oh, I can use this now. I can put this in their light bulb. It would be a funny trick. And then I kind of thought it out, and I was like, well, what's the punchline of this gag? Is their light bulb just isn't working? They throw out the lamp and buy a new. There's like no joke there.
And you never really get to see the fruition of it.
I won't be there.
Yeah.
Right. I won't be there. So I didn't do it. That's the only prank story I can even think of.
I feel like the little ones are more satisfying than like the big ones. Like this last week at work, I realized I worked in a doctor's office. I realized one of the doctors and another one of the receptionists have the same type of lunchbox. So I just went into the fridge and switched them. And like it's like little effort and like little payoff, but it's just such an easy prank to pull off that you're not like, it's not really a sunk cost thing. But like the funnest prank that I ever pulled was I used to work in a convenience store after high school, and I convinced this girl that I worked with that not only that the cough I had was caused by something called the bread lung, which I had made up on the spot, but that kids in California are sent to these mines to work when they're tiny children to mine bread from the bowels of the earth. And that's where bread comes from. And she's like, wait, I thought bakers bake bread. I'm like, well, yeah, because the bread mines are very hot and yeasty. You see, like, just pulling it out of my ass. And I got her to believe it for like 2 weeks, and it was just so good. For the, like, no reason at all. She was just a little gullible, and it was fun to, poke the bear. But
sure,
yeah, those are the funnest, I think, because not like you get to see them be like, "Wait, that's not what it is," and you're like, "Aha, got him."
I got you, kinda. I got you, kinda.
Yeah, exactly. I need that on a T-shirt. I got you, kinda.
Yeah, no, it's I can't take full credit from it. That's from one of my favorite South Park episodes. The one where he convinces everybody that his hand is Jennifer Lopez.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. My favorite episode is the one, not the whole episode, but just this one scene where he goes to a college and he's trying to get the dean of the college to explain to him how they exploit their student athletes without paying them, and he's like
student athletes.
Yeah, and he like dresses up as a southern slaver. I'm like, that's how you do satire. That's perfect.
I like the Scientology episode.
Oh, that was great.
We were watching it, and like they're going through, they're explaining everything that the Scientologists believe, and like Bobbie looked at me and was like, "Is this actually what Scientologists believe?" And then it says on the screen, "This is actually what Scientologists actually believe." And
it's like flashing at you, like
yeah, we're like,
and then R. Kelly's like, "But nobody's answering, so I pull out my gun," and then everyone runs off.
Oh God, he pulled out his gun.
Tom Cruise won't come out the closet. All right, let's see. I forgot where we were. Oh, the thing where it's like carry the bed out the door down the street.
Stalactites, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he knows
Yeah.
this can't be real.
I think it's like somewhere
Well,
deep inside of him. I think that's where we are.
Okay.
Yeah, basically it says they wouldn't pull off something as intricate as this. They weren't like that. Yet Michael ignored that rational feeling for the simple reason that he was terribly frightened and he didn't want to have to face whatever the true cause of this was. After a few seconds, Michael called out once more, "I can't believe Helen let you go on with this. All right, you can come down now. You got me." Finally, a reply came from beside him. "This is no joke, Mr. Palin."
Oh.
The plot thickens. Should I keep going, Atlas, or do you want to pick it up from here?
I'll keep going. Michael shrieked and tumbled out of his bed, but was stopped from his escape plan by him falling onto his left elbow. The scraping along the rock-solid ground and the stinging that shot through his whole arm killed any remaining shred of the thought that this was a dream. As Michael clutched his left arm, the source of the voice then said, "I understand this whole situation is discombobulating for you, sir, but do be careful of your surroundings." The figure waved their hand with a slight motion, and the pain was gone. At that moment, Michael didn't particularly care how this was done, and was temporarily relieved. He looked up at the figure, who was clad in a dark robe that covered the body and most of the face, standing beside the bed and looking down at him. The voice belonged to a woman, or at least something in the form of a woman, a raspy sound that was similar to a mid-Atlantic affection that befits an aged Hollywood starlet, who also happens to be a lifetime smoker. Okay, well, at least I know how to talk from now on. Had the person been beside Michael the whole time and his eyes hadn't yet adjusted enough to the darkness to see her? Thank you? Answered Michael. "You wouldn't happen to know who did this to me, would you?" "I did." A shiver ran down Michael's spine, and it wasn't from the water dripping from the roof of the cave. "I think I've had just about enough of this," his voice trembled. "Who are you and what's going on?" For a second, Michael thought he saw a flash of teeth. "All in good time, Mr. Palin," the woman chuckled. "You're the last one I've spoken to, and you've been the most polite of them all. Perhaps it's true what they say about you." "Would you like to test me?" Michael didn't dare say that out loud. He became aware of the moist floor. Fuck you, moist.
I never understood why people have such an aversion to that word.
It makes my hair stand on end. I don't know what to tell you.
Oh, it is. I think "oi" is the ugliest vowel sounds in English.
Oi.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I guess is kind of ugly in like it's a dull sound, but "oi" is just like, get out of here with that shit.
Maybe it's like deep anti-Semitism in our Western culture or something.
That could be.
Probably oi. Like they.
Let's see. He became aware of the moist floor dampening his trouser legs, and he stood to his feet. The woman went on in a sickeningly cheerful tone that was no doubt meant to rile him. "Go on, sir. A few of your friends are right outside, and the others will soon be with you." Michael was more than glad to get away from the woman, and he dashed toward the light. Perhaps it wasn't a good idea to be running through a wet cave, but Michael was just careful enough not to slip and fall. His heart had jumped at the mention of the others, and although whatever awaited him on the other side was sure to be dreadful, he was eager to see some familiar faces. As he came closer to the outside, the stone beneath Michael's feet transitioned to sand. He turned a corner and was met with a blast of wind and an unfamiliar sight. The sky was a uniform lavender, yet the light felt like it was the middle of the day, and both the sand and the sea that lapped the shore were various shades of wine red. He wasn't in England anymore, that much was certain.
Okay, so far nothing funny has happened in this Monty Python story.
This is not silly enough for my liking. Take it away!
I know.
That's kind of a problem. I mean, I'm picturing Michael Palin doing all this, and it's kind of funny, running out and having the wind in his face and making a Michael Palin-esque reaction, but there's not really any jokes here.
I mean,
No.
it's always a little weird when you this tends to happen in a lot of fan fiction where a lot of the description and exposition is all at the beginning of the story, and then it's just dialogue the rest of the way. That's not the case every time, but it's something that I feel like a lot of new writers make the mistake of doing. Because the way people tell stories to each other, I think, is you're trying to provide context to everybody, and that doesn't really translate the same on paper.
Right, and it's probably fair to say that fan fiction, a lot of it is this is where people start writing, right? They haven't written anything else. This is they're figuring out how to do it.
Yeah, like this.
Plus it's like, it's also kind of tough to live up to an expectation. Like, we're doing Monty Python, like their comedy. Like, let's just say I think it's harder to continue in the realm of comedy when it comes to fan fiction, or at least my limited experience with it, because it's like, how do you emulate the Monty Python style of comedy? Whereas it's like, yeah, okay, like, you want me to write a story involving, like, Spider-Man and Deadpool? Cool, I've got, like, 19 different stories where they all hook up, like,
Right.
The funniest
Plus, we're
part...
dealing with real people, too.
The funniest part to me is that this was written in July of this year.
This is a quarantine story.
Yeah. So maybe
somebody was really bored. Like, all of us.
Can you blame them? Really? Like,
no, I don't.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I'm doing this.
Yeah. The foreign horizon was oppressive in its unfamiliarity, but Michael sighed. Standing together by the distant shoreline, John Cleese and Terry Jones turned to him and waved. The three sprinted to meet each other halfway. The mental image of that alone. Dun, 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 dun.
John Cleese doing the sprint.
I could actually see them, though, keeping it going for way too long. Like, they're running like a quarter of a mile, and at some point one of them just runs out of breath, just like...
We're having to write all the jokes into this.
1 second.
Right. I mean, is this how people become punch-ups? Or whatever you want to call them? Punching up scripts.
Add a joke here, add a joke there. Move this scene, cut this scene. It happens,
I'm for hire to punch up your fanfic. If anyone out there is, my class got canceled, so I need some money.
Don't we all? We'll write way too obscure history jokes for food. Trying to make something about Ibn Battuta. All right.
I demand 10 minutes worth of Charlemagne jokes.
Challenge accepted? Give it a try. Let's see. Oh, thank God, Terry shouted. If you weren't here with us, I don't know what we'd do. They came to a sudden stop when they met, kicking sand into each other's shoes in the process. But such a minor irritation didn't matter. The three of them embraced as if they hadn't seen each other in many years. And not just a few hours ago. And Michael could tell from the way Terry and John laughed and pressed their hands against his back that a weight had been lifted from their shoulders by the sight of him. But that relief wouldn't last long. Seconds after they let go, the smiles trailed from the three men's faces. Michael said to the other two, "I can't imagine either of you know what's going on better than I do." John folded his arms, the lines of his face sank. Terry shook his head. What?
I'm sorry to cut you off. It's just like I was thinking, like, I feel that whole sequence would have been funnier if they actually made a big deal about the sand getting in their shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't imagine either of you knew more about this than I do.
Well, I do know that you got sand in my shoes, and it's very irritating. I hate sand. It's coarse, and it gets everywhere.
Bloody sand.
All right. Where was I? Okay. Let me guess. That some old biddy came and told you absolutely nothing. Michael tried to grin again, but he couldn't muster it. Terry pointed to a grassy hill beyond the beach, a ways down from the cave that peaked above the trees. "Is that Eric coming down from over there?" They squinted at the man coming down the hill, and as he approached them, the three could make out Eric Idle's face.
Okay.
Eric was carrying a bundle of clothes in his arms, walking past a flock of ducks that were currently making enough noise to drown out the ocean waves. So you go to the beach and you just hear wah 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 instead of the ocean.
I don't think I've ever seen ducks at a beach. I thought they were a pond bird.
Ducks are not saltwater birds.
Yeah, but the sky is lavender and the sea is wine red.
Okay, yeah, that's true. That's
true. All right, true. All right.
We'll go with.
I literally think that like their way of making this world seem different is just palette swapping the real world. They're like, okay, go from blue to purple and blue to red, and you turn the seagulls into ducks.
Yeah, it's very, very minimal effort put in to that project.
Atlas, I'm just out of curiosity. Have you actually ever reviewed a fan fiction and then the author like saw it and was like, "How dare you! How dare you ruin my vision?"
No. Something close to that, though. We had somebody come across the show and was like, "This is pretty cool. Here's one of my fan fictions if you ever want to do it on this topic." Which, because we choose our topics based on what the guest wants, I don't know if that's going to line up, but maybe it will one day, and I have that on deck for if it does.
What do they have? What was it? What was the fan fiction of, if you don't mind me asking?
I think I'm going to save it because, as a secret. Because,
yeah, so you can pull it out.
So I can be like, ha-ha, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's that behind your ear?
I pulled it from Hammerspace. Yeah. Let's see. Eric Idle's face, bundle of clothes, ducks. There it is. Okay. He had reached a clearing through the trees at the bottom of the hill when Michael recognized a multicolored jacket hanging from one of his arms that belonged to a fellow Python, Graham Chapman. Eric broke out into a jog and crossed the beach. He leaned over, his eyes set on John and Terry, panting. "I could hear you two shouting at each other from the other side of that hill." "Nice to see you, Mike." "Where's Gray?" John asked him. It was clear from the way he was standing that he was trying to employ the age-old tactic of the British stiff upper lip. That was capitalized, by the way. Not stiff upper lip, stiff upper lip, trademark. But his words still came out tightened. Eric stood back upright.
Not to be confused with the American stiff upper lip.
Which is what, AC/DC's
I don't
song?
know.
Which is Australian, but...
They're still British, kind of, technically speaking.
Come back next week. I'll have a funny joke for that. I'm still thinking.
Right.
I just like the idea of like we're filming our next episode, and then you pop into the Skype chat and be like, I
got it. Stiff upper lip because
yeah, whatever.
Can't have it yet, obviously.
Eric stood back upright, his body stiffened. He froze, and John snapped, "Well?" Taking a deep breath, Eric explained rapidly. "Well, I woke up, and after some woman nagged me, I was running around the woods too panicked to even scream my head off, when I saw a bed just sitting under the trees, and these clothes were on the ground, so I picked them up, and then..." He stopped just as suddenly as he started. He tilted his head towards a duck that had padded alongside him all the way down the hill. The bird now quacked furiously and fluttered over to the other three, flapping its white wings at them. Michael, John, and Terry shuffled away from it. "You can't be serious," Terry scoffed. "What do you think you're pulling, Eric?" "How do you think I feel?" Eric looked hurt by the accusations. "I'm still not sure I haven't gone totally mad." "He answers to his name. Go on, try it." The duck folded its wings and gazed up at the three with beady eyes. "I made a friend." John took a tentative step forward. Gray? Quack once if you're gray, quack twice if you're not." "Wah." John rolled his eyes. "This is ridiculous. It's probably a coincidence that the thing... Ah! The duck nipped at John's leg and he lightly kicked it away. Michael, however, was convinced. since we've been put out in the middle of nowhere, I think we can all agree that something's unnatural. Something unnatural's going on here, he said. When I met the woman, I fell and my elbow was smarting, but she waved her hand and the pain was gone. A bitter grin crossed Terry's face. Well, the alternative is that Gray is somewhere streaking out in the woods as we speak. I wouldn't put it past him, but I guess we ought to keep an open mind. You wake up in a strange world. All right, I gotta take my pants off right now.
Okay, so I guess Gray is how they're referring to Graham Chapman. It took me a minute. I was like, Gray? Who's Gray? Okay, Graham Chapman.
It's like a nickname for...
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah. Like, my name is not very nicknameable, aside from at, which is just a preposition. It's not a nickname, really.
Loser?
And this got frozen there for a second.
Kyle is just standing there, like, frozen on his own. He's not actually... he's, like, doing a weird pose. No, I was going to say, my name isn't very nicknameable. It's like...
Sure.
At. It's a preposition. It's not really one.
Yeah, it's no good.
What do you do for Kyle? Just Kai? Or...
Yeah, I get Kai, yeah. That's pretty much it. Well, it's either Kai or people will just call me by my last name, so that's about it.
And your last name's Daly, which, so what, like Michael Barbaro walks in, he's like, from the New York Times, that's Kyle Daly. I'm Michael Barbaro.
I guess. I mean, I'm not too familiar with Michael Barbaro, so I guess we'll have to go with it.
Like most New York Times reporters, he's got like a very soothing voice. I feel like if him and Ira Glass got in a fight from NPR, I would like to see that. Watch Ira Glass wrestle his own soothing voice.
Oh no, they maybe could get into a contest for what do you call them? Those ASMR YouTube videos or whatever. Like those people who just talk really calmly and smoothly into a microphone and help lull you into sleep.
Oh, dude! Like the end of every time like he does the daily, the way he says, "Here's what else you need to know today," and it like makes my hair stand on end. Let's see. Waved her hand, pain was gone. Duct was most... Okay. Sorry about that. He pinched the bridge of his nose. It's just that this whole situation is very strange, and John couldn't finish. The duck version of Graham waddled over and patted a wing over the leg he had just tried to bite. Wah. So you're not like a duck trying to comfort you. Wah. Buddy. It was a woman.
Okay, that's funny, right?
Yeah, you just got like your friend turned into a duck, walking around.
I mean, I could actually kind of see them going into that territory.
What, like?
I mean, one of them gets turned into a duck. I mean, let's be real here. Like I've seen, they did what do you call it? They did killer rabbits.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about killer rabbits. Fuck.
Yeah, they had to kill with the holy hand grenade.
Right. And there's she turned me into a newt. There's also, I think, one of the funniest.
Into a newt. I got better.
Is when they're saying, well, what else floats on water? And everyone in the crowd is yelling out, very small pebbles, churches. And King Arthur says, a duck. It's actually one of my favorite gags in that movie because it's like so subtle. It's a duck. the forceful way he says that.
I love how much of a dick King Arthur is in that movie too.
I know. I love that. Like nobody actually shows him any respect, and he's just like, I'm the king. You're king.
Well, I didn't vote for you.
I didn't vote for you.
It's just a flesh wound. Like, okay, so I don't know if this is true or not, but there's like, I guess trivia that the reason in the Holy Grail that they had the coconuts for the horse sound was because they couldn't afford horses. Was that true?
I think I've heard that. Yeah.
I've heard that rumor too.
Yeah, they couldn't actually afford the horses.
But that's like better and funnier and
it's a much better. I mean, that's one of the gags everyone remembers from that movie, right?
Well, it's that, and then the guy being like, your mother smelled of elderberries,
Yeah.
I actually recently learned that Led Zeppelin helped finance that movie.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Thank you, Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Apparently, like, they invested enough money into it where, like, they were actually telling people to go see the movie on tour. Like, thank you for coming, London. By the way, go see Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
That's good.
That's the weirdest, like, marketing campaign I've ever seen.
It fits in.
I know, right? Like, and just like sticking with the whole '70s rock thing. Like, what's the name? Jethro Tull wrote an album, and I've heard Ian Anderson say like "Thick as a Brick" was partially inspired by Monty Python. So go figure.
That's completely understandable. That's like
that makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Because the whole joke behind that concept album is just concept albums are stupid. So.
That's
exactly what it is.
I remember like reading. I'm not really a fan of Jethro Tull or anything, but I do remember reading a thing about them and about on the Thick as a Brick tour as they played that song. At the end of each section, they'd have someone walk on stage in some different wacky costume and do something silly, and then walk off, and they'd go on to the next section of the song or something.
I mean,
which seems very Python-esque.
This is coming from a band whose lead singer plays the flute, so nothing's too beyond the pale. And stands on one
leg or stood on one leg while doing it.
Yeah, and like that. Yeah. My favorite song of theirs, like for like deep cuts, not Aqualung, not Locomotive Breath, is Steel Monkey. Have you ever heard that?
No.
It's about being a construction worker.
Okay, that's cool.
It's a cool song.
They have one I like called The Fat Man.
The Fat Man. I've never heard that.
It's just a weird little psychedelic song. I'm not the fat man. I can't remember exactly how it goes, but it's very Jethro Tullian.
Right.
Wait, so the thing where Led Zeppelin is like telling people to go see the Holy Grail, that's like the 70s version of someone being like, donate to my Patreon for someone else. And completely not unrelated, patreon.com/badreadingpod. Okay, I'm done. Moving on. It was a woman in a robe, wasn't it? Michael chimed in. Wah! The Graham duck bobbed his head up and down. The 4 or 5 of them stood on the beach in silence. The rapid succession of seemingly impossible events occurring within a matter of minutes had rattled their usual quick wit to a snail's pace, leaving their minds floating dangerously close to an altered state of consciousness. And one of them couldn't speak at the moment, anyway. After a pregnant pause that lasted several minutes, a familiar voice rang out of the woods right next to the cave. Some reunion, huh? And we've been reunited for a while now. Jeez. Terry Gilliam stepped out and walked confidently towards the group. Following just behind him was Carol Cleveland, who was a little bit dazed but otherwise seemed calm. Michael had expected to see the other pythons, but he was somewhat taken aback when he saw Carol. Maybe the older... Someone say something? No. Okay. Maybe the older woman believed that she was being thoughtful by including Carol in the group. If this were some reunion special far off in the future, like Terry G said, one that didn't involve kidnapping, it might have been that way. Where's Graham? You did a falsetto voice for this. I'm sorry. I'm not Nick Kane. I can't do a million voices, so fuck it. Asked Carol. Eric replied, "He's been transmogrified into a waterfowl, as you can see." Carol previously dulled eyes widened, and oh my god, anseriformized. Graham bowed his head politely. I have literally never seen this word before in my life.
Wait, is that even a word? Hold on, I'm Googling this. Is this even a word? Look up.
Anseriformized.
Anseriformized. It seems like it would be a word.
Like he's transformed back into Graham Chapman and from his duck form.
Okay, well, according to this, it is not a word, but it is derived from pretty much an Anseriformes is an order of birds that comprise about 180 living species in the 3 families. Pretty much it's all about water birds.
Okay, so he's a water bird.
So it's like a verb form of anseriform.
Of being a duck.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
He's been duckified.
Duckified.
He has been duckified is pretty much what the word means.
Yeah. Graham bowed his head politely. Shit, that sucks. What?
I kind of want to give that person $1 actually for trying. You know what I mean? Like for writing such a word.
I think that's like a good use of that. Like it's a unique word and caught me off guard at the very least. Which.
Yeah, because it doesn't exist, but it could totally be a word.
Yeah, it's very Monty Python of them to do that.
Yes.
It embiggened my vocabulary.
Yes.
Which is an actual word, by the way, I've learned recently.
To embiggen
for the longest time, I thought that was just a Simpsons joke because, like, the whole joke goes like they say the word they're watching a documentary about Jebediah Springfield, the guy who founded their town.
Right.
And he says the line, "A noble spirit embiggens us all." And one of the teachers looks at, I think it's Miss Hoover, looks at Mrs. Krabappel and goes, "I never heard the word embiggen until I moved to Springfield." And then Krabappel goes, "What are you talking about? It's a perfectly cromulent word."
Right. Right. I think the writers, they said they were going to try to get some made-up words into the script, and they came up with embiggened and cromulent.
Right, but embiggen's an actual word. Embiggen's a real word. It is in the dictionary, yeah. And what was kind of funny too was like about like maybe 7 or 8 years ago, Marvel introduced a new character called Kamala Khan. She's the new Miss Marvel, and her powers is like she can expand her size, and every time her catchphrase is like "I am biggin" or whatever. And I said on a chat. And I said on a Reddit chat one time, like, can someone please know if they've acknowledged that they stole a word from the word embiggen from The Simpsons? To which immediately, like, 9 people responded, "Why? It's perfectly cromulent."
Honestly, embiggen sounds like a word that Trump says on stage that I totally embiggened my... Just
I'm
fuck.
embiggening everything.
I'm embiggening the economy. Alright. Now that they were all together again, a bit of tension that was weighing down on them, like the ocean on the sand, subsided ever so slightly, but like the rhythm of the waves, the tension left its mark on them, and it was about to come right back in full, and then some. The old woman had returned. Nobody had ever heard or saw her approach, but the 7 gathered closer together. Somehow, being in the outside didn't reveal much about the woman's face underneath the hood, and Michael could only make out the vague black lines of a mouth and nose emerging from a marginally lighter but still dark face. I don't know if you've ever tried to, like, do the hood that, like, you know, covers your whole face for a Halloween costume or whatever. It is impossible outside.
Yeah, it's rough.
Between the wind and everything, yeah.
Or, like, the wind, or, like, you gotta get it further, like, enough that it covers the shadow covers your face, but not enough that you blind yourself.
Yeah.
It's downright impressive.
I mean, what you could do is paint your face black, but...
No, I'm not going there. No. Bad Kyle.
I mean, technically speaking, it's not racist. You're just trying to camouflage, but at the same time...
No, shut up. No. I will reach through the computer and strangle you. All right.
Kidding. You don't do it.
She spoke to them in that raspy voice of hers. Others who have been brought here would be tearing themselves apart by now. Yes, maybe there's hope for you lot after all. She seemed satisfied with herself. The pythons were close enough to each other to share in the heat that emanated from them, as their confusion turned into fury. But they were still afraid of the stranger, of what she would do to them if she perceived something from them as a slight. Closer to the ground, Graham fluttered his wings around in agitation. They were far from fools, but Michael got the feeling that, in this instance, they might snap out of desperation for wanting to go home. Fearing that his more confrontational comrades would royally fuck up dealing with the woman, Michael stepped forward. "All right, you've got the power here. You can tell us what you want, and we'll try our best to understand." He didn't feel the need to turn around to know that the others didn't care much for his display of respect, but they certainly weren't going to say anything about it. The woman doubled over in a fit of creaky giggles. The pythons drew closer to each other still, until all their bodies made contact. After nearly a minute passed of this, one of the 7 were about to lose their patience and confront her once more. But then the woman stopped and composed herself. "My good man, I should hope that you all understand, or else I've wasted everybody's time." She went on. "Now that you're all together, I won't drag this out. But first, there's one more thing to take care of before I forget." She pointed at the duck formerly classified as a human. If you don't mind me asking, John began to say with caution, "why did you turn Graham into a duck in the first place?" The woman frowned. "I was greeting your friend when he suddenly lunged toward me, the damn fool, thinking he could get away with it. I decided to teach him his first lesson about this place, one that would advise the rest of you to heed. The world does not function the same as Earth, and you cannot approach it as such." That's not too far-fetched for Gray, Michael thought, although in this instance he didn't blame Graham for what he did. Poor fellow, being tossed into a completely different location, had disturbed all of them in one way or another. Why couldn't she simply tell them about how there's magic in this place, wherever it is, or demonstrate her awesome powers in a less disconcerting way? It's like, that last sentence is every movie that takes place in a fantasy setting.
Right.
I feel like there's like such a long build up to this story. Like, okay, we get it. The 7 people, they're in this world where everything's weird and magical. Now, what happens? Please tell me what the fuck happens.
Get on with it.
Yes, get on with it. Oh, I am enjoying this scene. I'm not going to do the whole thing. All right.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, you should totally edit in that whole "get on with it" moment by the time we get to here.
I don't know if I'm going to get a copyright strike for that. I think if you do 5 seconds or less, at least for YouTube, that you can do it.
It also depends on the company too. Like, I'm not going to name names, but I tried uploading a game footage of mine a couple of weeks ago on my YouTube channel. And within 5 seconds, the owners of said IP were just like, it wasn't like a real strike. It's just it demonetized the video, so the video has no chance of being monetized.
Yes, that piss yellow dollar sign.
Yeah,
it's the worst feeling.
Yeah.
The woman waved her hand, and in that same moment, Graham was human again. The force of him returning to his normal size, nearly knocking over the whole group. With a great gasp, Graham collapsed to his knees in the sand. No doubt the sudden change from being just over 2 feet tall to his normal 6'4" was a shock. Eric handed his clothes back to him. The transformation happened so fast, Michael didn't see if there was some middle stage in between. After forming a mental image of what that might look like, so I'm imagining like an Animorphs book cover.
Right.
Anamontes or something. After forming a mental image of what that might look like, Michael was glad he didn't have to see it. While a shaking Graham got dressed, Terry J. was next to find enough courage to speak to the woman. "Did you insinuate that this place isn't Earth? Are we on some sort of alien planet?" "It is alien in the sense that it's unfamiliar to you. None of your rocket ships could ever reach this place, no matter how fast they traveled." She spread her arms out reverently. This world exists in its own dimension, the only object in its universe. I've observed your universe for quite some time, and I've brought you here because in all galaxies, in all the planets, only you seven have any chance of helping this place. She reached a hand toward them. Pythons, I welcome you to Ramesh. And darkness fell upon them all. That is
okay. So far, this is kind of like a Galaxy Quest or Three Amigos kind of situation, right?
Yes.
Right.
And there's a little note here at the end. Normally, I would never do a real person fic based on contemporary figures, but this is basically a joke fic. It's Monty Python, for God's sake. This is actually kind of a parody of an old Beatles RPF called, quote, With Strings Attached, which has the premise of the Beatles being put into another world. I was reading it, and I thought it was very amusing that the author put all this effort into creating an original fictional world and then shoving the Beatles in there. Especially since them being the Beatles has so little to do with the plot that the author could have changed their names / backstories and not much would have been different. And I guess I'm doing the same thing now. You don't have to read With Strings Attached to understand this fic, though, because other than the central conceit, there really isn't much to parody about it, since it's pretty self-aware about itself. And that is the end of the chapter.
Oh, the end of the chat. Okay, sounds like that's the end of the story. Are we done with this?
No. There's more chapters. I encourage you all to read it because it's pretty wacky. Like I said, link is in the description, and that'll pretty much do it for the episode. Chris Oliver, thank you so much. What?
Funny happened in the other chapters.
Yes, but
I mean, I guess I'm being kind of a prick, but I'm like, how are you making a Monty Python fan fiction and there's nothing funny?
I think
like even if it's like really lame parody of Monty Python comedy, there should at least be some kind of attempt to make a joke.
I mean, what's funny is that the next chapter is literally called "Sorry About All the Exposition."
That's good.
So yeah, it's pretty funny. I'll give the link to you after, and thank you so much for
my own time.
Thank you so much for coming on Bad Reading, Chris.
Oh, no problem. I had fun.
Where can people find you out there?
Well, I'm on Twitter. I'm Chris Wood. On Facebook, I guess if you look for Chris Oliver, you'll probably find me. And Tao Comedy Studio. We're doing, we do shows every Saturday night on Zoom these days, and open mics and classes and whatnot. And we do have our own podcast called The New Normal, and this is my second podcast of the day.
Mine too.
We put out a new podcast of that today. I don't know. I feel like I wasn't really funny enough on this podcast. Was I?
You did fine. Like the bottom, like the floor so far is the episode with Ian Russo, where he sat and listened patiently for most of the episode.
Oh God, that guy. What was his fandom?
BoJack Horseman was the episode he picked. But like the whole thing, I kept having to ask him, "Are you okay? What's going on?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm fine. I'm just sitting here." I'm like, "That's the opposite of what I want you to do."
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It happens.
Well, anyway.
Kyle, where can people find you?
I am on all the social medias. It's daily_comedy. And just so everybody's clear on that, you spell my last name DALEY_comedy. That's YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, even a Facebook page. If anybody ever really goes on Facebook anymore, besides to yell at their racist uncle for being racist. So I don't know. Like,
I use it for Messenger, and that's it, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, it's pretty much just become I don't feel like actually, no, like, there's no reason for it, to be quite honest with you, because I was about to make I don't feel like wasting my text payment jokes, but it's like, nobody pays for texts anymore. Nobody pays by text anymore.
You just pay like a flat rate and get unlimited data, or depending
Exactly.
where you are.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you can find me at Atlas Novak. Novak being spelled Novack. I just realized I never point that out. Twitter, Instagram, or you can find this show at Bad Reading Pod in the same places. And if you would like to help support this show so I can get a better microphone and to pay my co-hosts would be cool, you can donate at patreon.com/badreadingpod. There's 4 tiers. They're all named after shitty tropes in fiction, and you get stuff like access to a Discord and helping us vote on the story every week and a whole bunch of other goodies. So check it out if you want. And thanks everybody for listening. It's just a flesh wound, and have a good night.
Bye-bye.